Well, it's an absolute delight and privilege to introduce this piece from Carol, Barner, and Dane, who I've had the privilege of mentoring through the process and making of this work this year. It's a true triumph in what can be achieved in a pandemic, and it's been an absolute joy to work with this bunch of curious, brilliant, and pioneering people. I'm going to now ask them some questions, but before that I'll introduce myself. I'm Sarah Ellis, I'm Director of Digital Development at the Royal Shakespeare Company, and we're going to just give you a little introduction before you experience it. So, Carol, what was the inspiration for Kvöldvaka?
It's a good question. We find the inspiration for it in ancient stories, specifically ancient stories of Iceland that tell of hidden people, the Huldafolk, living among us in a different dimension. And we felt that connection was especially relevant and important now. We're facing a global pandemic, people are disconnected, we're facing climate change and a loss of species, and people are feeling lonely, disconnected, and these ancient stories speak about a different connection that we have to the world through rocks and trees, and that is all around us, and we felt that was incredibly relevant right now.
Thank you. And I understand there's some holograms in this work, Dane. Can you share a bit more about that with us?
There are holograms, and we wanted to visualize the Huldafolk as holograms because of the important role that this folklore has played throughout history, connecting legend to landscape and defining our relationship and even our context to the environment. So our hologram design has a certain aesthetic. We use a volumetric capture process that is three-dimensional. And so the Huldafolk, when they appear as holograms, they take up three-dimensional space when you're experiencing Kvöldvaka, and you'll feel that presence. And the Huldafolk holograms, the result is that they feel like they're pressing up against the boundaries of our physical dimension, as if they're reaching out to you during the experience. And then we also have a certain styling that we've used. Being inspired by the Nordic lights, we've incorporated the colors and even the dance kind of behavior that the Nordic lights have, and we've put that into the holograms to give kind of a playful, interactive experience. And then if you do Kvöldvaka on a LiDAR-enabled device, such as an iPhone 12 Pro, these Huldafolk holograms feel part of your environment wherever you're doing Kvöldvaka, because they're interacting with the trees, the bushes, the rocks, all around you in real time.
And moving on from that, the mobile phone is what you're using to experience this piece. And how does that, help in terms of connecting to the natural spirit world, Barna?
That's a good question because, we're all aware that technology usually doesn't help you connect with nature. It can be really isolating. So we were mindful of this, and in our narrative design, we're trying to keep your focus on your environment all throughout the experience. And we want you to forget that you have a phone in your hand. And so many times there's really nothing on the screen to look at, or you're not tapping buttons at any point. We're really trying to keep your brain aware of the environment instead of the phone. We're using very modern technology, but we're trying to make it invisible, basically. But we did want to use augmented reality because it's very, very good to recreate this experience of seeing these hidden people around you in your real environment. And also because there's a research coming from Stanford that really supports this decision. It says that augmented reality can really change the mental image of a certain space that you have in your brain. So by designing Kvöldvaka as a store living experience, where you live through all of this, you spend time in nature, you connect with nature, you meet the hidden people living there, your brain will actually remember that forest or that backyard with those hidden people living there in those spaces. And we think that's very powerful.
That's brilliant. And on a final note, before people experience this, I'd love to hear from all of you about what you want audiences to take away from Kvöldvaka. And let's start with Carol.
What we really hope is that when people put Kvöldvaka away, they play with this experience, they play with the technology, And then when they're done and they go back out into their backyard or back out into the park, that they feel this different connection, and they will maybe say, I remember seeing a Huldefolk over here, over there, I heard something, and maybe just take another moment to look around their space and feel that connection to nature differently.
Yeah, I think there's a theme embedded within Kvöldvaka that the narratives that we have toward nature define a relationship with our environment. And so those stories and those folklores that we have are critical to not only an ancient time, but our modern time.
I want people not to have an intellectual takeaway, but more like an emotional takeaway, where they experience Kvöldvaka and then they look at their surroundings, they look at nature in a different way, in a more caring way, because of the hidden people living there and because what they experienced in Kvöldvaka.
That's wonderful, and a wonderful note to end on. Thanks so much. You are an awesome bunch of artists, and I hope everyone enjoys this experience as much as I've enjoyed working with you as your mentor. Thank you.